He's with us now, so let's head out to the Boxer and Gerson guest line. Steve Kerr, sponsored by Xfinity. The Xfinity 10G network is made for streaming live sports, which means it's the network you can rely on in the biggest moments. The Xfinity 10G network, the best way to stream live sports, and presented by Great Clips. In sports, success is about team effort, and the same is true for your hair. Great Clips, it's going to be great. I was just at Great Clips over the weekend and saw my guy Ty, and I loved it. He did a great job, no matter what all of you think who are watching on YouTube. So I loved it. Steve Kerr joins us now. Coach, it's great to have you, and I know you don't want sympathy from anyone, so I'll ask it this way. Like, how has in-game decision-making for you been different this year versus years past?
Well, I think we have a very deep roster, which has been really helpful, being able to survive a lot of injuries this year. I would say the tricky part is just the lack of clarity in terms of, who to play from night to night, because our guys are very closely matched, to be honest with you. We've got a lot of guys who are good players who haven't really separated from one another. Now, Kuminga clearly has over the last month, which has been great to see. And we're starting to get consistent closing minutes from Brandon Pujemski as well, which is really exciting. But we got a lot of guys. You saw it with Guy and Lester last night. There's a lot of guys who could close the game, who could play well, who have the ability to be out there when we need them. So, it's a great challenge. It's great to have the number of guys that we have, but it is at times, it does make for some difficult decisions.
Well, let's just stick with Guy and Lester for a minute as we're all starting to get to know them a little bit better. What's impressed you the most about Guy Santos and Lester Quinones over the last couple of weeks, Steve?
Well, they've been with Santa Cruz now the last couple of years, and so we know both players really well. Lester is very athletic and bouncy. I thought his defense last night was fantastic. He had the big offensive night in Atlanta. He's capable of creating a shot and getting to the basket and being pretty explosive. So he gives us a nice quality there in that backup point guard role. And then with Guy, he reminds me a little bit of Juan Toscano-Anderson. It's all hustle and awareness and cutting at the right time and getting the offensive rebound, sprinting back in transition. He's a connector. The ball moves when he's out there, and he just makes everybody around him better. So it was really fun to see those two guys the last couple of games. After all the hard work they put in Santa Cruz, great to see them rewarded and for them to reward us too.
Steve, I do wonder what kind of a surprise that is to you, though, since we're on this topic. Like, if we had said to you at the beginning of the year that Guy Santos would be in a closing lineup of a victory in February, what would your response have been? We loved Guy in camp. We recognized the kind of player he is, an energy guy and someone, like I said, who can connect lineups, make people better. I don't think any of us saw that coming, closing a game, particularly with the depth that we have that I just talked about. But he was that group that he was with was really clicking, and I just felt like it made the most sense just to keep them together and let them finish, and they did a good job of it.
Minutes for some come at the expense of minutes for others, and it was Klay Thompson last night not in the finishing lineup. Where's Klay in terms of his overall confidence level and his game here now that he's been not in the finishing lineup in a couple of these games?
Yeah, we've talked, and that's all part of it. The communication that happens with each guy based on his own circumstances. And so right now, Klay's going through a little bit of a rut. He's still a hell of a player and a guy that we're going to need and that we're going to count on. But this last week, there's just been a few games where, it just felt like it was the right thing to do to close with someone else, just based on how the games were going. And he's embraced it. He's accepted it. really well. I thought his comments after the game last night were perfect, talking about the young guys and how happy he was for them. So he's handling it really well. But it's just kind of part of it for him. This has been a rough patch for him.
Yeah, Coach, I'd say the comments were definitely good teammate comments, but at the same time, he's definitely frustrated. And with everything that the two of you have been through together, I wonder what this has been like to make decisions like this. How much of a challenge has that been for you?
Well, when you know somebody for a decade, there's a lot of trust that's built up. And we've been through everything together. And, the same goes for Steph and Draymond. And, when these relationships are really grounded and founded in trust and respect. So, these are, as I said, difficult decisions, but they're ones that, that I have to make as the head coach and that Klay has to accept as a member of the team, and doesn't make it easy, but it does mean that we just have to keep communicating and we'll for sure do that.
Well, Steve, this is a difficult question to ask, but I'm going to ask it. Do you feel like Klay has an accurate acceptance of where he is in his career, particularly after what he's physically been through?
I just think Klay is going through what most, if not all, athletes go through at some point, where you're not quite the same guy as you were 5 years ago, and it's okay to admit that, and it's okay to accept it. And one of the things that we've talked about a lot this year, not only for Klay individually but for our team, is as we get older, how can we win in the margins? What can we do incrementally better this year to make up for the fact that we're a little older? And so those are conversations that I have with players, conversations I have with our team, and they definitely apply to Klay. That when he becomes a playmaker out there and moves the ball, he is at his best, and I think he's still, an elite shooter. I mean, even during what for him is a down shooting year, he's still, 37, 38%, which is really good from three. But when he's coming off screens and, hitting Looney or Trace Jackson Davis for a dunk or swinging the ball to the weak side, we become a better team. And so we talk about things like that, and I think sometimes Klay is just so hard on himself and he expects so much that he just wants to make every shot. And it can't be about the shooting. It's got to be about everything else.
Does that make it harder on Klay, though? Because, we all talk about the Claymaker game and the Splash Brother and all the shooting that he's done. And when the shot's not there, do you see that it might be difficult for Klay to really find his footing on this team?
No, I don't think there's any problem with him finding his footing on this team. I just think that, and I wouldn't know what it feels like to be Klay, but imagine, being that good, scoring 38 and a quarter, 60 and three quarters, and then, two career-threatening injuries later, and you're trying to find it. That can't be easy. That can't be easy. So I think that the main thing is he's still a very good player. He still represents something for us that's very important, which is, the floor spacing, the defense, the versatility. He still has that. It's just different. And I think that, part of the challenge for him and for us is just to adapt to that, to adapt to those changed circumstances and still be a player who impacts winning, which he always has.
Steve Kerr with us here, Willard and Dibs. Coach, what's the role of Steph and Draymond in a situation like this where Klay might be, feeling that frustration? Steph is still playing at the height of his powers. Draymond's been amazing since he's returned, and they've all been through this together. So what are they doing for Klay?
That's a question for them. I don't say anything to those guys. They have really powerful relationships, and You saw Draymond last night walk by Klay's locker and said, "Who cares? I got benched in the finals." And that's what a great comment from Draymond to remind Klay that he's not alone in that regard. And those guys are also close. That I have no doubt that Steph and Draymond are both giving Klay the support he needs behind the scenes.
One guy not getting benched too often is Jonathan Kuminga. Can you liken his eruption to any player maybe that you played with or anything else that you've seen from a player who's gone from where he was last April and May, where he was not even playing really in the postseason, to now he's an absolute double-double machine?
Yeah, he's just had a breakthrough, and it's been so fun to watch. You see the way he's attacking the rim, the way he's cutting to the rim. He had several cuts to the rim last night for dunks. And, the breakthrough has happened, and it's exciting to see. The thing that I've just tried to remind people of the last couple of years is just how young a lot of these guys are. J.K. just had, I think, 10 games in the G League bubble before he got here. And so what we're doing now in the NBA is what college coaches used to do, 20 years ago. We're coaching freshmen and sophomores now, and so they have to become juniors, before they're really ready to feel and understand the game and understand winning. And I think that's what's happening right now with J.K. The foundation that he's been building the last couple of years is really clicking, and the game's slowing down. He's starting to see where he can attack and when, and he's minimizing his mistakes, and we've changed things for him too. We've opened up the floor. We've gone away from the two big lineup with Looney and Draymond, so he's got more space out there with playing with Steph and Klay and Wiggs, and he's really using it, and he's attacking well. So it's fantastic to see his growth and his development.
First of all, Coach, congratulations on getting a Draymond review correct.
That's right.
And secondly, take us through the anatomy of that with how forthright he is. I'll use that word in requesting your review when it involves him. Like, how do you guys balance that? Take us through what happens in those moments.
Well, Jacob Rubin is our coach who's got the monitor behind the bench. I always look to him, and sometimes the monitor either isn't working or he doesn't have a good angle, and these things happen pretty quickly. Draymond happened to be right along the baseline last night when the ball went out of bounds. But he jumps up. He says, review it. It went off them. I look at Jacob. Jacob shakes his head. He says, I don't have a good angle. And Draymond is desperately pleading with me to take the timeout, and it just felt like the right thing to say. All right, I trust you. We got this, and so it worked, And then like 10 minutes later, I had the whole bench erupting and telling me to challenge the foul on Lester, and that one didn't work. And I was joking with Jacob afterwards. We've had this process in place for a couple of years now, where I don't listen to anybody but him. And I told him after the game, our process is completely destroyed now. It's total free-for-all.
Well, and those are almost impossible to overturn. The kick out, was it a kick out or did he impede the leg and whatnot? And those are, I think, much more difficult. But in terms of the Draymond factor, when he twirls that finger in the air, is part of you to just look away like you didn't even see it? Because Draymond probably wants you to challenge 8 to 10 a game, right?
Yeah. I think the time and circumstance do help me make my decision. Like it just felt everything was going great last night in the second half. We really were controlling the half. The team was playing so well. There's a great energy on the bench. It felt like a really good time to just say, yeah, you got it. I'll trust you on this one. If the opposite is true, if the game's going in the other direction, he does it out of frustration, I'm much more likely to pretend I didn't see him.
Good honesty.
Steve Kerr with us here on Willard and Dibs, 95.7 The Game. Coach, how's Andrew Wiggins' foot?
Good. He practiced today, and he's probable for tomorrow.
Okay, and along those lines, and I know he's been there most of the time, but along the lines of, for instance, Draymond's back, Moody is back, other guys are going to be coming back soon, GP2, Chris Paul. And you've mentioned a number of times that you love the team's depth, but we're also, of course, clearly aware of all of the minutes conversations that have gone on this year. So is there a point where that depth almost becomes a bad thing or a challenge for you?
It's never a bad thing. The opposite is way worse. I think the challenge is just trying to keep everybody on board and happy. And I give this team and every individual in this team great credit this year for sticking together in what has been a difficult season, below 500. We've lost a lot of close games. And a lot of guys have not received the minutes they've wanted. And this team has stuck together and kept things going. It's why I actually have a very positive outlook on the rest of the season. I really think we can turn this around and have a great year because we just have quality guys. That doesn't mean they're happy not playing, but they have embraced this idea of you support your teammate and you take advantage of your opportunity when it comes, and you just stay ready, and that's what the guys have done.
Trade deadline about 45 hours away. I'm sure you've had conversations with Mike Dunleavy. I don't want to betray the trust that you have between the GM and yourself, but what are these days like as a head coach, knowing that the team's starting to play well and starting to really gear up for a run, yet you may lose some pieces and add some new pieces in the next couple of hours?
Yeah, it's all, part of the rhythm of every season. You get to this week and you just don't know exactly what's going to happen. The fact is usually nothing happens. I would say definitely more than half of the times in my, 10 years here, nothing's happened. But the possibility of it is there. The players feel it. Their families feel it. So you don't really know what's going to happen, and you just have to keep moving forward. And I'll be talking to Mike every day the next couple of days, and we'll see how it all plays out. But I don't anticipate anything happening.
Yeah, Steve, it's interesting, and you've been very clear in the past with the way reports come out on social media at times and whatnot. There was a report a couple of hours ago that termed the Warriors as desperate to make a deal. Like, what would you tell fans who listen to what you just said but see that on social media?
Well, be careful what you read. I mean, it's I can tell you there's been no desperation on our part whatsoever. Mike is doing his job. He's staying in touch with everybody from around the league. So, there's plenty of conversations, but there's zero desperation, I can tell you that.
Is it safe to buy a Curry jersey, Steve, or is Steph on the move?
Yes, splurge and go buy it. It should be fine for many years to come.
I had to put you on the record, Steve, not to corner you. It's not usually my bit.
It's a huge relief because I already bought one for my kid for Christmas, so it's a huge relief. Coach, thank you as always. Philadelphia tomorrow, Indiana on Thursday. Big finish to the road trip. How are you feeling about those two matchups? By the way, back to back and fatigue and everything that goes into it.
Yeah, we've had a lot of games. So I think it'll be 5 and 7 days by the end of this trip. So not an easy trip, but our guys are really doing a great job of competing and staying together. And I think we have a chance here to get on a run, and I'm excited.
Final score: Niners Chiefs.
24-23 Niners.
Oh, crying out loud.
That's not cover, Steve.
That's what? Jake Moody at the buzzer? Are you trying to kill us?
I mean, I don't. I just you ask me, I give an answer, and then you're going to critique me. I mean,
I'm just telling you.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Point,
I don't know if I'll be back for next week's interview. I'm going to be in the hospital if it's that close. That's all I'm saying.
Go Niners.
Yeah, there it is.
Well done,
all
Steve.
right, Coach. Thanks as always.
All right. See you guys.
All right. We definitely
Steve
will.
likes the under, apparently, but barely.